Welcome to another episode of Thoughts of a Trillionaire and Becoming a Techno Wizard. All right, so I'm going to cover a lot today, mostly getting back to trying to make this more of a journal documentary style thing, sharing you what I've learned and everything like that. Which it kind of has been, but it's more idealistic ideas, before. I'm still going to do more of that, but just want to, be able to document things and stuff like that. Anyways, this last couple of days since the last episode for my podcast, for if you've been just watching the YouTube channels, I've been trying to get back to daily podcasts on my Anchor podcast, Thoughts of a Trillionaire. So check that out if you want to, hear those. But yeah, the last one I did was on Thursday, I believe. And so that Friday, I had a great conversation with a couple people. One of them, shout out to Ube, great, one of my mentors now. Asked him about my business in terms of no, I talked to him on Thursday actually. Yeah, I talked to him on Thursday. Who that? Oh, see, this is why I want to do these on a more regular basis. It helps me to remember what happened with everything. I think I talked about Ube in my podcast, but I talked to DM. Shout out to DM, who is, I guess, sort of my mentor, but more like my boss, working at his agency, but he's also kind of helping me to increase my skills and anything else that I need help with. So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I talked to him about my business idea. He showed me, he basically helped me to kind of how to think about how to break it down some more, because my business idea is very big. And that's a good thing, because for me, I don't want to work on something that is, just the same old one thing, super focused on just one little niche. That's just not who I am. I like to have a wider approach. I like to be more a holistic approach, if you will. And that's okay, because turns out that's very much what his business does too. His business has multiple aspects. He does business strategy, UX design, which encompasses research, prototyping, wireframes, visual design, all that other stuff. And he does change management. He does career coaching, all that stuff in one, right? So what he was saying is that I need to basically find examples of current businesses that do, each part of it. Maybe there might not be a business that does everything, but there's surely businesses that do, the different aspects of it. Like, for instance, the research, like my first kind of step in my business idea is this research as a service, where we do user research with people to determine what are their needs, what are their personal needs, as well as their context around that. He called that kind of like diagnostics when you're working with a company as a consulting agency. So looking at that, will help me to better hone in on how to describe it to other people, as well as things like the business model, things like what this is going to look like realistically, so on and so forth. And yeah, just doing that for each section. Because when I was trying to explain to him, it's been difficult with everybody. It's like explaining exactly what it is and what I want to do and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna do more of that. I'm not sure. I was thinking about doing an episode where I just share my whole business plan. It's just the first version, so it's not like. And plus, overall, like, I know people say, "Oh, don't share this stuff out. Keep it close to your chest. You don't want people to take it, or, or to, I don't know, think some. Oh, I don't know." There's arguments for why you don't, share these sorts of things. But for me, I think a big part of this business being successful is being super transparent, because we are going to be dealing with a lot of data and a lot of information about people and their lives and stuff like that. And so I want to instill that transparency early on in the business, showing you what we do with data, what we do with this information, and how it's a conversation of how that information can be used. And I think that starts with the stuff like this, right? Talking about the business from the get-go, from the beginning, so that everybody involved, everybody that ever heard of the business can know, that we're not just some profit-driven, thing trying to make a bunch of money or anything like that. We're trying to actually change the world for the better. And I think in order to do that, you have to empower people, right? You have to give people agency and trust and respect, right? And in turn, I hope they give some of that back, give some of that respect back, and have that mutual understanding that we're all like trying to make the world a better place. But anyways, that's kind of the philosophy side. But yeah, talking with him helped me to kind of structure my research, because I've been doing a lot of research on, um, what this, what, where this fits in terms of like a marketplace and all that other stuff, right? And it just probably make more sense if I do share that business plan, because I have an idea of what I'm talking about, but other people may not have an idea, even though I have talked about it here and there throughout these last couple of episodes. It still may not be clear to you, so I'm sorry about that. So yeah, I'm gonna set aside another episode for that, because there's a lot of other things I want to cover in this one. But just to be a little bit more clear, I kind of wrote down a initial vision and mission and all that other stuff. So here it goes. But the pitch overall is basically, I want to create an ecosystem for self-fulfillment. I want to personalize the world's knowledge. I kind of stole that from Google a little bit to make it useful and accessible to everybody, right? Meaning I want to make it so that whenever you have an idea of what you want to do, or even if you don't have an idea of what you want to do, you know where to go to find that. You know where to go to find some direction, and you know what your needs are and how you can begin to fulfill them. All right. I know that's very vague, but here it goes a little bit more. So the vision I have is unlocking humanity's potential. I want to create a society where every individual can live their best life. That's the vision. The mission is to raise the global consciousness by creating personalized ecosystems for self-fulfillment through human-centered design. Help every individual and community meet their security and growth needs to experience their full existence and healthy transcendence, and use the wisdom of the past to build towards a better future. Again, that is sort of idealistic in a way, and that's a good thing I think, because we are driven by ideas, and having these grandiose ideas, having these kind of philosophical, standpoints, I think encourages people to kind of ask, okay, what do you mean by that? Right? To kind of wonder, okay, raise a global consciousness. What does that mean? What does that look like? Personalized ecosystem, human-centered design. Why are you focusing on human-centered design, not other processes, right? And that's what I want people to do. I want people to, wonder about these things and hopefully reach out, right? Or want to get to know more. But at the same time, I hope it's still detailed enough to give you an understanding of what we do and why we do it. But yeah, things like human-centered design, and focus on that just because I'm learning design right now, and it seems like there's so much about it that can really help with much of this process, right? I'm not sure if I should get into that right now, but basically from when I'm learning about it, you do, starting with gathering requirements, gathering, an understanding of what the current kind of needs or goals are, and then doing research, right, to understand more about the people that you're going to be dealing with. And that research can be anything from secondary research or desk research, which involves, competitive analysis, involves market research, involves all that other stuff. Secondary research, basically, like looking up on social media what people are saying, stuff like that. And then as well as primary research, user research, which is talking to people, right? Getting understanding of what people actually want, or rather what the problems are, right? What pain points they're facing, what are their current circumstances and contexts and scenarios and all that other stuff. So, and that's just the first couple parts of the human-centered design process. After that, you go into, um, getting understanding of what you need to deliver, right? The content that you need to deliver, the information architecture and all that. Then you start prototyping, all right? So that prototyping and wireframing, all that only comes after all this other stuff. um, yeah, it's a whole lot of stuff that in the human-centered design process that I think is super applicable to the wider range of helping people. So that's why I kind of centered around that. Maybe I might find something else, later on in the future, but I doubt it. um, but yeah, I think that mission is it's a good place to start. Things like healthy transcendence. That's another term I learned from the book, S.B. Kaufman's book of Transcend, the new science of self-actualization, where he goes over Maslow's hierarchy of needs and what he was talking about. Basically, just to recap a little bit, because there's a lot you can get to. And I want to do I need to do a couple episodes where I'm just talking more about that stuff. But healthy transcendence is the idea of people getting to a point where they have like much of their security needs met. So, safety, food, water, shelter, physical safety, all that stuff, connection, having meaningful connections with people, having, romantic relationships, whatever, self-esteem, which is having a good, sense of confidence, being highly regarded by your peers, by other people, so on and so forth. Those those are your main security needs. And once you have those, or not even just, it's not, that's another thing, right? It's not a all or nothing type of thing. It's once you get it to a certain threshold, right? Once you get it to a certain threshold where you're not really worried about those things too much on a daily basis, you can go beyond. You can get into the growth needs, like how do you grow as a human person, as a human being, right? Which goes into your growth. Which goes into your exploration, love, and this love. This is like deep stuff right here. Love being not just like love for your romantic partner or your loved ones, but like love for the world, right? A feeling of being one with others and with humanity, with the nature and all this other stuff. It sounds like a little woo, a little weird, but they actually have science that proves, like, that shows that this stuff, this idea of love, this sense of being, it's actually a measurable thing, right? It's something. Maybe you can't measure exactly how much love you have for the world, but you can measure the difference between people who feel that sense of being with other, with the world, or with and so on and so forth, versus people who don't. You can measure that, right? You can see these people feel like they have better lives, and they usually do have somewhat better lives in terms of fulfillment, in terms of um the passion they have and all this other stuff, right? Like, this book goes a lot into it and shows so much research in this field. So when I say love, it's not metaphorical. It's not just, oh yeah, do you feel good? No, it's real. It's like, do you actually have this unified sense of the world? And that creates a tactile difference in how you see the world, how you move through the world, how you interact with other people. And then beyond that is purpose, which is, most of us have an idea of what purpose is, but this book shows that it is not necessarily as it shows the difference between external purpose and internal, right? Purpose that is given to you by somebody else, by somebody telling you, oh, you should do this, this is your purpose, whatever, that's usually weaker. And that's even based on deficiency, which goes back into the security needs, right? When you don't have your security set, like your self-esteem, for instance, then somebody else will tell you what to do. Somebody else will tell you what your purpose is, and you just take that. And that creates a weaker sense of purpose. That creates a fragile sense of purpose that doesn't really allow you to grow very much. So yeah, this healthy transcendence goes even beyond that. It's like, once you have some good your security, needs met. You're in the B realm, which is called the being realm. This is that sense of love, that sense of exploration and purpose and all that stuff. Once you have all that, again, it's not, when I say once, it's not like, oh, you've achieved and you never have to go back. No, it's like a threshold. You meet a certain threshold. It could be today, and then tomorrow you feel differently. And then another day you feel differently. Another hour you feel differently. It changes, right? It's dynamic. But the fact is that once it's integrated, all right, what I really mean is integration is bringing together your needs, your security needs with, your growth needs, with your greater kind of sense of the world and sense of the universe and stuff like that. So he goes into talk about how you have transcendent experiences, these spiritual or other types of experiences, the sense of awe, right? The sense of awe is even like seen as like the kind of lower level of transcendence. And then you go higher than that, where you have this just complete otherworldly feeling where people, for instance, who were clinically depressed, and they have this sudden feeling, and it's just like, whoa, it's just like one with the world, and there's all this other stuff, and then they get super like driven afterwards, and they do all this other stuff. All right, it goes deep. It goes deep. Highly recommend just reading the book, because I'm not explaining it very well. But anyways, healthy transcendence is the hope, is the kind of goal here, because that is an action. That is a point in which a lot of people can constantly go towards, and it's practical, right? There's different aspects of that too, but the point is, there is an unhealthy transcendence. You can get to a point where you feel like, oh, you're one with the thing, or you're one with the world or whatever, but your deficiency needs haven't been met. Like, you have a sense of deficiency, rather, where you don't have a sense of self-esteem or connection or healthy connections, and so you're kind of trying to fill that in with this other bigger sense of transcendence, and it's unhealthy. That's how you get a lot of what do you call it? Come on, like, not just arrogance, but like, what's the freaking word? I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm not remembering the word. Narcissism. I'm terrible. I don't know why I forget that stuff, but yeah, a kind of unhealthy transcendence creates a sort of narcissism where you have this grandiose idea of changing the world, and you think you're the chosen one, like you're the only one that can do it, and that's like creates a huge amount of problems. But healthy transcendence is the realization that yes, you can change the world, or you have this idea that you can play some part in it, but you're not the only one. There's plenty of other people who's doing this too. You can work with them. You can do this work, and if you die, somebody else is gonna pick it up or whatever, right? As long as you do your best, right? As long as you try to be your best self, or try to live up to your own best potential, then that's all that matters. That's the difference between kind of healthy. That's some of the difference between unhealthy and healthy transcendence, is the idea that, you can accomplish really amazing things. And that's amazing things for you, right? It doesn't have to be changing the world or whatever that means. It could be, being the best, I don't know, flower arranger, right? Just doing your best at that, at that, whatever position, whatever job, whatever hobby, whatever thing that you want to do in life, right? Just being able to look into the sky and enjoy the clouds, all right? Looking at a rock, at a pebble, and be able to understand, like, oh wow, this is amazing, right? This is an amazing aspect of life, of the fact that this pebble can be here, and it's just, you don't know how long it's existed, you don't know where it's been, but it's here, and you can experience this thing, and it's just like being able to have that sense of awe for things, and have that sense of appreciation and gratitude for things, just creates a better appreciation for the world, right? But yeah, that's all that stuff. I can go on and on, and as I'm learning more about it, there's always more I want to kind of talk about it and bring into this, but that's the mission. Help more people get to that healthy state of transcendence, because it shows that people who are in this space, who can constantly and frequently experience this level of transcendence, are more agreeable, are more passionate, are more able to, deal with problems, right? When problems happen, because problems always happen to everybody. Being transcendent doesn't mean you're above the world. You're still in it. You're still here with everybody else. You just know how to respond and react and move with the world. When things happen, when bad things happen, you know what to do, right? You don't fall apart. You don't you become, to use that word, anti-fragile, right? You have that sense of anti-fragility, that everything is an opportunity for growth, that you can, once you get knocked down, you get back up and you keep moving and you help other people and you whatever, right? These people who've experienced this level of healthy transcendence have that drive, that have that, pretty much every character trait that we really appreciate in other humans, that we really want, our friends and ourselves and our kids and whatever to have. And so to me, that means that if we want a better world, right? If we want to live in a world where we can appreciate other people, where you can trust other people, where you can have a healthy government system, where you can, have a cool company and great friends and coworkers and all this other stuff, then you have to have more people that are experiencing this healthy level of transcendence. People wonder why we have all these problems in the world, right? Why we have all these crime and corruption and all this other stuff. And people try to, like, they had this, they talked about this here in the book too, where the kind of old view of psychology, and is still very much, kind of in the mainstream mindset. Yeah, they have this kind of dark view of psychology, this view that humans are inherently violent, are inherently evil, and the only thing that keeps them, good is laws and rules and shows of force that forces people to do the right thing, right? But this shows, and they have plenty of research, it shows that actually, no, the reason why people do, a lot of this bad stuff, a lot of this stuff that we don't really enjoy and appreciate truly, is that their needs are not met, right? They're deficient in a lot of areas where, and you may have felt that yourself, like I have felt that. You have this sense of insecurity where, for instance, self-esteem. If you don't have that self-esteem need met, then you have an insecurity in yourself and how you view yourself. You have this learned helplessness. You can't, where you think you can't learn things, you think you can't do anything, and that creates a huge problem of where people can't pick up new skills, for instance, or people can't, adjust to situations. People can't, are not open to new experiences and stuff like that. That all that comes from a lack of that need of self-esteem. They also show that, for instance, for connection, for love, when you don't have that need met, people either become defensive, clingy, or recalcitrant, like they hide into themselves, right? And so that creates a lot of problems where you're in a relationship with somebody, but because they have some internal, problems of that love, of that connection, then they either retreat back into themselves. They don't talk when you're trying to talk to them. They don't share their feelings. They don't share their emotions. Like, that's me. That's what I'm saying a lot about this, because I understand that. Like, this is what I do. What I have done a lot is, like, I hide into myself. I don't talk about that stuff. I try to keep it within and all that. And that makes the relationship, toxic, because the other person may be trying to figure out what's going on, or maybe they don't know what's going on. And they're doing stuff, and you're just feeling bad about it, or you're feeling, oh, they're not really listening to me, they're not really talking to me, but you're not talking to them, like, you're not even telling them what's going on, and so you can't have that healthy relationship. The other way around too, it happens where they strike out, they try to fight, or they try to hurt the other person, so on and so forth, because they don't have those needs met. So basically, what I'm saying here is that I believe this is a genius work of psychology, and which shows how almost all of the human behaviors that we have today, and many of the problems that we have today, can be broken down to these fundamental issues, these first principles issues with the human psyche, right? And so that means that if we want to create a better world, a better society, there's no better way of doing it than addressing people's direct needs. And because these needs are not like, they're not crazy. They're not like, again, humans are not inherently evil. They're not inherently, vice creatures where they're just trying to, so they're not inherently selfish creatures too. That's what this shows too. It's like, you have this kind of thought that people are inherently selfish, that they're only looking out for themselves. But this once again shows that no, once you meet those needs, right? Yes, you do have some self-centeredness, and that is good to an extent, because you have to like meet those needs. You have to find that safety in yourself, that connection, that self-esteem, right? But once you get there, once you get to a certain threshold, and you know how to meet those needs regularly, right? You can grow, and people naturally want to give back. People naturally want to, share themselves with others, naturally want to make the world a better place. People want to do these things, right? It's internal, it's intrinsic in the human kind of psyche, in the human genome. And so what that tells me is that all these kind of rules and things and organizations around, oh, you have to make people do the right thing by incentivizing them to to do the right thing, whatever, that's wrong. That's not going to solve the problem. If you want to solve the problem, you have to go down to the root causes, and this is the root causes. So that's why, that's what excites me so much about that. I've been reading a lot about it over the weekend. I'm on page 250 or out of like 392. So good ways through. Probably over, it says like 49% done, but that's not really accurate, because like he has like a whole bunch of pages of appendices and bibliographies and all that other stuff. So that's like probably the latter fifth of the book or something like that. But anyways, yeah. Learning so much about that. And that's why I really want to focus on that for the business, because I really think this can be a business where you are matching people, you understanding what their needs are. All right, you're talking to them, and this is why I have to break it down too, because people will point out. I don't remember where I was, but basically, but yeah, trying to break this down. So many people look at this and like, oh, this is just therapy. All right, this is just, I don't know, stuff like that, right? Career coaching or something like that, or coaching in general. But no, it's not. Here's why. Number one, a lot of those therapy, coaching, and so on and so forth, we've had them for a long time, right? And obviously, they're not really changing the world. They're not really, fundamentally changing the psyche of the society. They're kind of an individual, kind of piece by piece, person by person structure. And furthermore, more importantly, they're not holistic. A lot of the times they only really focus on one thing, one problem, one kind of aspect of kind of the human experience. Even ones that are bigger or that cover more things in the therapy session, they may give you a good idea of a number of things that you can do to improve your life, but they don't necessarily get into, the fundamental needs of a person, right? And I don't think they break it down into like how Kaufman did, quite frankly. So he kind of shows that this is a kind of new science. Like he says, this is the new science of self-actualization. And the problem is that most people are following some other models, right? They like psychology in general is going through a huge, what they call I think the replication crisis, where they can't replicate a lot of these, tests or theories about the human psyche. But, he has a whole lot of research that can and has been replicated, done by a number of researchers all across the field. So to me, this shows that this is a new thing. This is why it hasn't been done before, right? Because this is generally new. People had Maslow's ideas, but number one, a lot of people did not read all of Maslow's stuff, right? They were working off of the pyramid. And again, that pyramid was not done by him. And so they were dismissing Maslow's ideas without ever actually realizing that Maslow talked about a whole lot more than that stupid pyramid. And so that's one aspect to it, right? Like their foundations were not set on something that is strong, something that is like fundamental. I think Kaufman seems to be, and I've talked to, I've been talking to more and more people about this. Talked to 2 psychologists so far. DM is one of them, and then talked to this other woman who's working on a different startup, who's working on a similar problem. That's another thing I wanted to talk about. I talked to her on Friday as well, and I don't want to say what she's working on because I'm not sure if she's comfortable with that, but it's somewhat related, somewhat related to what I was working on. So that was really interesting to see. But anyways, yeah, so the people I've talked to so far, granted, there's only 2 directly that I've talked to, and it seems to be pretty good. But I've also listened to a whole lot of podcasts and looked up a whole lot of research about it. Recently did a Twitter thing. I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. And the whole there was like more people than have ever interacted with most of my other posts have interacted with. That one was like, yes, this is great. So I do think there's a lot of good things to go here, and this is why I want to do a little bit more research to talk to these subject matter experts around this to make sure that this is indeed a fundamentally good foundation. But yeah, I think this is a powerful, very powerful aspect of what this business is going to start with. And I think that's going to be one of the major differences that bring this above, like, or beyond where a lot of the therapy and coaching has been before. Furthermore, this is not a therapy session, right? This is not a therapy focused thing, because it was this great tweet, and I know it's a tweet, but it was still accurate, and it's done by a psychologist who's like, or a therapist, and she was like, great therapy is great, but at the end of the day, a lot of people just need money, right? And a lot of people love that, and it was like, yes, and you saw all these therapists and psychologists kind of like just plus wanting that in the comments, and she's right? Like when you do this research, you realize that yes, therapy is great and all this. The same thing with mindfulness, meditation, yoga, whatever. The problem with a lot of these things is that they're not holistic, right? They're like, oh yes, as soon as your mindset is good, if your mindset is this way, or if you can think about this problem this way, whatever. But no, people need material things in their lives as well, right? Again, the safety needs. If people are struggling to make a living for themselves, then it's going to be very difficult for them to get to those higher levels of self-actualization, to get to a healthy level of self-actualization, right? If people are, levels of loneliness are higher than ever before, even though we live in the age of internet and social media, right? People are not able to make those meaningful connections and are not able to, have close friendships and stuff like that. Why? I have some ideas as to why, but the point is that it's not a pure technology. It's not a pure direction that you can, it's not a pure thing that you can solve by therapy or by just talking to people. You have to give them the resources, right? You have to give them the knowledge. You have to give them the material things, the money, right? You have to give them the material things that will help them achieve that level of, or help them fulfill that level of those needs. So that's some of the things that I want to address with this business, is connecting people to the resources, showing you, okay, you're looking for a career, you're trying to make money, right? Here are some resources, here are some ways that you can make money, or here's some money, that you can use right now based on your specific needs, based on your specific context. That's another thing too. This is why I'm not just like, oh, just making a directory of things, of ways to make money, because a lot of people, they have a specific context as to why they can't use a certain tool to make money, right? They, like, you can say, oh yeah, anybody can just Google how to make money, but in order to make money, right, in order to be focused and dedicated enough to use these tools online for how to make money, it has to have certain, you have to help people with their self-esteem, or help people with their, learned helplessness, or help people with their sense of connection, their network, help people with their family. Maybe they live in a situation where, their family's constantly interrupting them or, with, or maybe they just don't have family support, right? So when they're trying to sit down and work, they can't. Maybe they don't have computer access. Maybe they don't have good Wi-Fi, good enough Wi-Fi. Maybe they don't have. There's so many things, right? There's so many barriers, and I want to reduce those barriers by actually getting to know what people are like, people, and what their problems are, and directly, accomplishing that. So that's the second aspect. Number one was the foundation of a good psychology, understanding people's minds and why they do the things they do. Realizing that people aren't just evil, aren't just lazy. That's another thing. People think, oh, people are just lazy. That's why they don't do it. Humans aren't inherently lazy. If we were inherently lazy, we wouldn't be here, right? We wouldn't have a giant brain. We wouldn't we wouldn't have been hunter-gatherer cultures for 150,000 years. Okay. If we were inherently lazy, we wouldn't exist. Okay. So that's just a stupid freaking argument. I hate that. People have unfulfilled needs. The only time when people are lazy is when they don't know what to do, when they have that learned sense of helplessness, when they have that depression, when they have that anxiety, and they feel like they can't do anything. People want to do. People want to create and to discover, to explore, to do all these things, but they have all these barriers in the way. That's when I want to remove. So anyways, I was trying to recap. You have that the foundation, and then you have, this direct sense of understanding people's needs and addressing those needs. And then I want to have a sense of kind of metacognition, a sense of being able to see those needs yourself, right? This is the point of being empowering, of making sure this is around self-fulfillment, not I'm going to fulfill this need for you. No, I'm going to show you how you can fulfill your own needs, right? And I think I can do that by creating a visualization of showing you, like this sailboat model, for instance, and showing you, hey, these are your safety needs, these are your connection, your self-esteem. This is your missing spots here, right? You're missing this, and they can see that. They can see, oh, I'm missing, my safety needs. People, because that's another thing. People don't actually realize why they do the things they do. People don't actually truly know, how we go about the world. This is another thing about the brain. The brain, there's a large part of the brain that kind of just does things. And then our conscious side, right? System B, whatever you want to call it, system A, system B. There's one side that is not one side. It's not like a little side, but there's one part, one aspect, a system or whatever of the brain in which is very slow and methodical and does most of the decision making. And then the conscious side, like the part that we are kind of think about when we think about sentience, right? That part makes justifications for why we did it. So we do something and then the justification comes. And people think, oh no, I did it because I wanted to do it, or I did it because of this reason. But no, you did it and then you came up with the reason for why you did it. They have so many, studies around this stuff too. You can look that up. And that's I think there's a society-wide factor, like trait of this as well. I think society in general moves in a similar manner where we have these emergent systems. We have this kind of the system, the society, the government, whatever you want to call it, right? Where the culture, again, it's the kind of the bigger, slow, methodical system that does a lot of the things, that makes a lot of the decisions. And then the kind of thinking aspect, like the meta aspect of looking at, why we did those things. Why is our society this way? We try to justify that, right? We create those justifications after the thing is created. Like, for instance, some people, they had this philosophy that laws are not like some objective things that, we're trying to follow under it. Laws are just the current pattern. They're just a standard, right? They're what we write about how we do the things that we do. Like, culture and our society runs a certain way, and our laws are written basically as a as a byline of that, as a description of how our society works. It's the same thing as the brain, right? Again, we do something, body does something, brain does something, and then we constantly try to justify it. So I say all that to say that in order for us to be more aware and take charge of our lives, we have to have this knowledge. We have to have this understanding of how we work, of what happens to us, of why we do the things that we do. This allows us to make better decisions. This allows us to make better predictions. And my lips are chapped, so sorry. And this allows us to just move forward move forward in a better, more effective manner. So what I want to do as part of this business is be able to, once again, visualize your needs, visualize what's going on in your life, very much like a game. That's another aspect. So I'm taking inspiration from psychology, taking inspiration from, therapy and coaching, consulting as well. I'll talk about that later. Therapy and coaching, as well as taking inspiration from games, from video games, because video games are such a great example, really, of behavior change and of visualization. In a video game, especially nowadays with open world games, survival games, and so on and so forth, you have a very clear idea of kind of what the game is. You have a very clear idea of, and I like to use the Valheim. And Valheim, I'm not going to use that because a lot of people still haven't played it, and I want this video to be, something that other people can kind of understand. So let's use something like chess. All right, most people know chess, even if you don't play it. Like, I haven't played it in a minute, but most people know chess, and chess is a game just like any other game. And so in chess, you have an idea of what the game is. You can see the game board, right? You can see all the pieces. If you know how to play chess, you know what the pieces are. Like, in order to play chess, you have to know what the pieces do, and you can move them around, right? And so the fun in chess comes from being able to use strategies to figure out how to, win, how to beat the opponent. But in life, it's not like that. In life, you don't even know what the rules are. You don't even know, what the strategies are. And so a lot of people are struggling just to learn how to maneuver through the board. It's like getting a random person who never played chess, who never seen a board before, and putting them on the board, right? Or, some them play this game of chess and you have no idea what you're even talking about. They don't know what the pieces do. They don't know know anything. And you expect them to enjoy the game of chess. All right. That's why it's a inherent problem. It doesn't make sense. In life, a lot of the problems comes from the fact that most people don't know how to play the game of life, right? They don't know what makes the game fun. They don't know, what the moves are, what the board is, anything. And so it's very unenjoyable. It's very boring for some people, very hard for other people. It's very, not just hard, frustrating. It seems like it's just terrible. And so people have depression, people have anxiety, people become violent, all this other stuff, right? It's very similar to a game that, you don't know the rules. And this goes for any game, right? If you're playing chess, if you're playing, like any other board game, if you're playing a video game, like imagine playing a video game and you don't know how to play video games. You don't know what the button, you don't know how to shoot. You don't know what the shoot button is. You don't know what the jump button is. You don't know what the, whatever. It's like trying to play that game. It doesn't make a good game. The best games are ones that have a good onboarding or a good tutorial, something like that, that shows you how to play. And then you can walk through that game. You can, you slowly kind of build up the challenge level of, it's a little bit easy at first. You go against, maybe in chess, for instance, the tutorial is really somebody else showing you how to play. And then you start to play and it builds up in challenge. Like, you can't just start playing chess and then play against a grandmaster and expect to win and have a fun time. Like, the grandmaster, in order for him to have a fun time or to let you have a fun time, he has to dumb himself down and be like, okay, I can't just smash this person. I gotta, whatever, right? Same thing for a video game. You can't just play a game where, and like an MMORPG, where you're in the tutorial area, and then the higher level people can come in and just gank you, just do whatever, take all the resources or kill you or whatever, right? That does not make for a good game. But that's how life is. Life is just terrible like that, right? And so what I want to do here is create a more game-like, life experience. And the reason why I think that's powerful is because life is a game. And the research shows that many, many self-actualized people, self-fulfilled people, transcended people feel like life is a game, right? Like that's one of the things that of once you get to a level of success or of like, inner being and stuff like that, you feel like life is a game. Life is an infinite game where you can do all sorts of things. You know what to do to play the game. It's still challenging, right? It's still difficult, but you know how to play the game and you can enjoy it more because of that. That's the feeling that I want to give to more people, that I want to make accessible to more people. And I believe I can do that by helping people visualize, what the game, what the pieces are, what the moves are, what the quests are, so on and so forth. And that's going to change for each person, right? That's what makes it so exciting to me, because it can't be one thing. It can't be like, oh, here's how you do it and here's how you play. Because in the infinite game, what makes it fun is that anybody can have any sort of play style. It's like a sandbox game, right? Where you can, like Minecraft, you can play this way where you can build things and all this other stuff, or you can play another way where it's like survival type of game, right? You can build this or you can build that. You can go here, you can go there, whatever, right? That's what makes these open world sandbox games so appealing, why so many people are keep chasing after it, because that's how life should be. That's how we kind of intrinsically want our lives to be, but it's not. And so that's what, I want to make accessible. That's what I want to figure out. So yeah. Ooh. Yeah, that's basically the business right there. I can probably go a lot more into it. But I really, I didn't even mean to talk about all this stuff. Like I just meant to talk about what I did on Friday. But yeah. So I'm doing a lot of research and all that stuff and putting this together, slowly but surely. I know I could be better. That's another thing I want to cover, is that over the weekend and yesterday, I've been feeling like just not motivated. Even though I have this great idea for what I want to do and I feel like some passion for it, I kind of felt frustrated that I wasn't making enough progress. And I felt like my biggest problem for a long time has been like my self-esteem. Feeling like I'm not enough, feeling like I'm not talented enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not skilled enough, not connected enough. That goes back into my connection. And my safety needs, quite frankly, like I don't have, secure needs over here. Like, just to be transparent, like my family probably gonna lose our food stamps soon. I've been on food stamps for most of my life with the level of, stuff that we've dealt with. And now we might lose that. And it's not like we want to stay on food stamps, but like we kind of need it, because I have so many people in this house that had like medical problems who can't work full time, who literally can't. Like they have, I don't know if I can talk because it's not my things to talk about, but you just have a lot of those medical issues, and it makes it really difficult to have that consistent flow of money, that income. And I've been trying to figure out, how I can get more of that income and coming in, stuff like that. But now it's like you get to a certain level where you're able to help out, and then boom, they cut that out. So that's like, and I live with like, I have a large family with 8 folks. So we spend maybe, 1,500 or something like that on food for the whole family for a whole month. And it's like, yes, I reached a certain point where I can help out, but now you have to have all this other stuff, like all these other expenses. And I'm just like, seriously, like how do you expect that to go? Because this is why you have that poverty trap, right? And people say, oh, people just want to stay on food, they just want to mooch, they just want to. No, like it's hard. You do all this work, working multiple jobs or whatever. and you do all this work to get to a point where you can get off food stamps, and then it just immediately it's all gone. And now you're trying to save up before, you're trying to get to a point where you can save up, but it doesn't allow you to. Like the system does not allow you to get to a point where you can save up because it's based on like the income that you have, not the income that you're saving or the income that, or your dispensable income. You don't have any dispensable income. Like you have to report all your income, right? So if you try to save some, that's money that you need to use for, food, for bills, for all this other stuff. So it's like, that's why it becomes a poverty trap. It becomes so difficult to get out of. So I guess that's been a major part that hit me, over the weekend. It's like, dang, just makes it really difficult to keep motivated, to keep going, because like you get there, you get to a certain level where, okay, I'm making progress, and then 30 steps back, right? But yeah, that's what I've been dealing with. I'm feeling a little bit better now. Just gotta keep going. Really, there's no other options. There's no other, or rather, there's no other options that I want to have. Like I'm not gonna sit there and get back into not doing anything, right? Because I am lucky in that I have felt that transcendence. I have felt that level of self-actualization, and that level of, I have experienced many of these awe-inspiring feelings where I realize that, yes, this is like one with humanity, one with others, and all this other stuff. And and they say it here in the book, where once you've experienced that, there's no going back, right? You always have that to call upon. You always have that experience to remember and to push you forward when you're in tough times. That's one of the things that makes it possible for you to go forward, because you felt that experience, right? And that creates in you the ability and the perspective to know that you can keep going, to know that maybe others have been in worse situations, they got through it. Or like, that hasn't always helped me, to be honest with you. That's not really what helped me. It's just, for me, it's that perspective. And it's hard to explain that, because perspective, I don't know. That has to be a whole other thing to really get into. But suffice to say that just a better understanding of, the world and the universe and all this amazing things. This amazing, I guess that's what really keeps me going, is that feeling like I'm living in an amazing time in history, where I can have access to all this knowledge and amazing stuff at the same time as there's like this knowledge that we're kind of living on a knife edge with humanity, where it can go either way, right? And that's scary, but at the same time, it's like, it's interesting, because it feels like anybody can change that, can push it towards the right direction, and anybody can push it towards the wrong direction. And so that means that everybody needs to chip in, right? Everybody who can, everybody who's like me, who has felt that level of transcendence, who has felt like this desire and this passion to make the world a better place, right? We need your help, right? It doesn't matter if you think you can, if you don't think you have a high chance of doing it, just do it anyways, right? It doesn't matter if you think that, you don't have the, like, for me, I often feel like I don't have the skills to do this. Like I'm looking at this section and like, why me? Right? Why am I the right person to accomplish this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, other people can do this, probably do this way better. Other people can grow this, can build it, but nobody is. At least there's not enough people. Not enough people are doing it. Because if enough people are doing it, I wouldn't have to. I could work on a number of other ideas that I've had, but there's not enough people working on this. And that's what keeps reminding me. That's that perspective. I think that's one of the perspectives that keeps me going, is that no matter how little and insignificant and worthless I feel, I know that because I have this idea, because I have this understanding, because I've done this research, because I'm looking at this problem, that gives me a responsibility to do it, to do my best to solve it. And hopefully I can get to a point where somebody else can take it and just like, all right, I got this. I'm like, okay, cool. I can work on, some other things I have planned that I wanted to do. But until then, I'm gonna keep going. And yeah, that's one of the things that keeps me going, as well as my significant other. She's always, super supportive and amazing. Helps me feel warm inside. So I love her. But yeah, that basically covers much of my weekend. In terms of what I've been thinking about, um, materially, I've been watching stuff with my partner, my significant other. We've been watching some wuxia a lot, some great movies on Netflix and all this stuff. So that's been really fun. That was a good break, as well as a good inspiration. We watched this movie called what's it called? I forgot what it's called, but that's one of the movies. I'll go back to that so I look it up. And another movie we watched was the Yin Yang Master. That one was absolutely great. Some great wuxia. And for those that don't know, wuxia is kind of like low fantasy, but for like East, it's kind of like East Asian or Chinese kind of low fantasy. And the other side of that, excuse me, is Zhangxia, which is high fantasy. It's just like super magic stuff, like a lot of magic where they have this cultivation of going to immortality. And I used to read those all the time, so I love that not genre. But I didn't really get into too much into wuxia itself. Wuxia is more around martial arts, kind of like magic infused martial arts type of stuff. So Union Master is more like that. That was really great. They have two different versions. I thought it was like a sequel, like one and the other, but no, it's interesting that they have different, like China has such deep lore and folklore and all this other stuff, and these people can make shows and movies around it, and different studios will make different movies around the same idea, and so that's very interesting to me. That was great. Last week we watched Neja, or rather Neja Reborn. We seen Neja, the first one, a couple months ago, but Neja Reborn was another great one we saw. Um, but yeah, that was great, and it was really inspiring for me because I love that stuff. Like I the I've read thousands of books, and most of them are fantasy. Most of them are sci-fi, um, and it just really encourages you and to think creatively and to think differently. And I think that's one of the main things that keeps me open to things. It keeps me thinking about possibilities and ideas and so on and so forth. Because a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, these other books, these self-help books or biographies and stuff like that, it's boring. It's boring to me, right? I know they don't. There's probably some interesting ones out there, and I'm getting more into it nowadays. But for the most part, it was not. Those were never exciting to me as a kid. It was these fiction stuff that was interesting to me. I read a lot of web fictions nowadays. So one of the ones I've been reading over the weekend is called The Wandering Aim. I've been reading that for a long time, for the last like year or two. It's super long. Like web fictions are great. Like for those that don't know, web fiction is where an artist or a writer basically writes live, right? Like every week they release a new chapter. They maybe it might be 2 or 3 chapters a week. Um, Maybe they might release a chapter a day, but basically every day or week or on a regular basis they release a new chapter. So they're kind of writing the book chapter by chapter and releasing it. So it's not like you have to wait some years and then they have a whole book for you, read all that. No, it's chapter by chapter, week by week. And so you're kind of reading it as a writer, and you can talk to them on the comments afterwards and stuff like that. So that's super great. The Wonder Man is one of the best ones I've read so far. It really hits you. It's really deep. And it's written in such a distinct manner. Like at first I wasn't with it because it kind of felt childish, but the tone it builds is just so, it's crazy. Like it gets really dark moments where favorite characters die, like Game of Thrones type of style, but way better. I'm not gonna say necessarily way better, but some aspects it is because it's a whole web fiction, right? They don't have to rush it. It's you get invested into these people, into these lives, into all this stuff, and things happen. You're just like, oh dang, right? It just hits you so hard. Um, But yeah, I got to be careful with that, because when I start reading, I can stay up all night just reading chapter by chapter. It's just like, oh my gosh. And I'm behind in that book. That's why I can read chapter by chapter, because the author started in like 2016, 2017, or no, probably earlier than that. But I just started reading last year, so I still have I have so many chapters, and the chapters are super long. Most authors, they kind of have shorter chapters, maybe 500, 1,000 words, type of thing. This author goes somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 words per chapter. Crazy. So yeah, that's super great. Let me see. I've been talking too much. Let me see if I can. Gotta be. Oh, here we go. That's, I didn't realize it's. I thought it was MKZ, but yeah, meta motherfuckers. MFKZ motherfuckers. Was watching that on Netflix. That was really great. Really interesting, really different, and basically getting into like global warming type of stuff. But that was a great little show, or great movie on Netflix. Watched that this weekend. So yeah, that's what I did. And today, I wanted to get into some SMART goals. I'm going to try to break down, what I want to accomplish in the next couple of weeks into some SMART goals, and have at it. So yeah, that's it. I don't know how long this is, but we'll see. But as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to comment below in my email, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, not Facebook, LinkedIn, but hit me up and I'll be happy to talk. If you'd like to talk, if you want to work together, let's work together, create a better world. Yeah, see ya. Bye-bye.